Dominating the headlines today is the wave of bombings that has left scores dead and wounded in Iraq. And much closer to us here at CBS News, the killings of CBS cameraman Paul Douglas and soundman James Brolin, and the critical wounding of correspondent Kimberly Dozier by a car bomb in Baghdad. Such bombings and IEDs, improvised explosive devices, are making fighting this war more difficult and deadly, even changing the rules of war that mankind has followed for thousands of years. Joining us this morning to discuss that is retired Army Colonel and CBS News military and security analyst Mitch Mitchell. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, Meg.
Mitch, we're talking about three combat-savvy journalists. They took every precaution before they went out yesterday. But this is Iraq, and it seems that IEDs are lurking around every corner. How do you battle that?
Well, first of all, you have to know where the IEDs are before they go off, and we're pretty bad at that. We don't have good human intelligence. So, unfortunately, we do the same thing day after day after day. We go out on our patrols, and selectively we are struck by these IEDs. That's a bad situation. What makes it worse, of course, is that we operate in build-up areas, the worst possible circumstances for us, because in these build-up areas, you have IEDs that can be planted anywhere in close proximity to the convoys that go rolling by. So it's an ideal target field, if you will, for our enemies.
It seems the traditional rules of war are no longer in effect. What happened?
Well, you have to have everybody playing by the rules, and in this case, we still play by the laws of war. We believe in discrimination and proportionality to make sure that we know who we're shooting at. We don't go after innocent civilians, non-combatants, but our enemies don't judge it that way. Anybody is fair game for them, and that's why you see them out there with these IEDs killing not only U.S. troops, members of the press, but also innocent civilians, men, women, and children. They have no value of life. They are the most cowardly and despicable people on the face of the earth.
Why do we see so many suicide bombings and IEDs in Iraq?
Because the best way to get attention is to get a big bang for your buck. The bigger the bang, the better. And they have found a weak link. In Iraq, they can put a suicide bomber out there, cause a big splash. It'll make the press all over the world. They can do the same thing with an IED. We get reports almost every day of IEDs going off and killing people. That's the way they make their statement to the world. That's the way they do their political work. They want to make a statement, and they do it that way.
Well, how can we solve that problem? You mentioned we don't have a great handle on it right now.
We've had a similar problem everywhere we've dealt with these IEDs. We can't get the population to cooperate with us as they should. Either they are in sympathy with our enemies, or they are afraid to cooperate, or they are just indifferent to the whole thing. So the problem we have is trying to get the human intelligence that we need to give us advanced warning of these IEDs so we don't walk into the traps.
I take it fear must play a role in the fact that a lot of people, if they see these bombers detonating these explosives, they're not calling it in?
Certainly that has a role to play, because if you take a look at an IED, almost every one of them that we've run into in Iraq has been command detonated. That is, a person has to be there observing the scene and sending a signal to the bomb to detonate at a particular point in time when it'll be the most effective. That means that person's in close proximity to the bomb, and there are people around watching that person set up the bomb, watching them park the car. They see strange things and they know about them, but we're not getting all the intelligence we need from them. We've got to find a way to fix that, even if it's gigantic rewards, something to stop the killing from these IEDs.
As a retired colonel, how do you feel about journalists embedded with the military?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I was out with them on something called unilaterals in the first Gulf War, and that was just incredibly dangerous. We would go out by ourselves and basically be in no man's land where no one was protecting us. At least we're here with the military now. We're with convoys. We're with the troops. It's a much better way to handle the situation. But I can tell you it is still dangerous because they are with the targets. That means that they are targets as well. The journalists I've been with and the camera crews I've been with are some of the bravest people in the world. They match up to our service people every step of the way. But they are in harm's way, and they can expect to take casualties, and certainly they have. 71 so far have been killed in Iraq.
Kimberly received immediate medical attention. I'm assuming that had to have made a huge impact.
Absolutely. You know, we have probably the best medical evacuation system and triage treatment system in the entire world. We get people through the gates quickly and save lives, and never has that been more evident than this war in Iraq. We have made immense jumps in our medical procedures to save lives, and I think Kimberly Dozier owes her life to the quick medical treatment from not only the corpsmen on the scene, but the field hospitals that took the immediate steps to save her life, and then she was evacuated to another location where they could do better surgery. So hooray for her. She's going to make it, I think, and it's up to her to thank everyone who was in the medical service taking care of her.
Absolutely. And real quickly, we're almost out of time, Mitch, but overall dozens of people were killed on Monday due to different bombings. What does that say about the situation? Is Iraq ready to take over at this point?
It says to me that we have a long way to go to turn over the security of Iraq to the Iraqi security forces. Don't look for months and don't look for the end of 2007 as some Iraqi officials have pronounced. I think you're going to look more at a few years, maybe 5 years before we can leave the country.
All right, CBS News military analyst and retired colonel, thank you so much for being with us, Mitch Mitchell.
Thank you.
York's new Affinity Series air conditioning systems are sleek, quiet, and efficient.
Jet black.
And they come in colors as distinctive as you are.
Champagne.
Because people like color.
Terracotta.
The new Affinity Series from York. Get up to $1,500 cash back, or special financing, or extended warranties on select products.
Call today. In the Portland Tri-County area, Four Seasons Heating and Air Conditioning. Serving Vancouver and Portland area, Fritz Mechanical Incorporated. In Southwest Washington, Custom Mechanical Services Northwest.
The lap of luxury. Just log on to Tonkin.com and shop our huge selection for the car you love without ever leaving the easy chair.
Truly Spectacular describes the quality work of All Oregon Landscaping. From start to finish, the award-winning custom designs, specialized skills and equipment, and trained expert installation is why All Oregon Landscaping has earned the reputation of providing the finest custom landscapes in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Contact the design team at All Oregon Landscaping to transform your landscape into your dreamscape. It's landscaping at its best.
For years, we in America have grown accustomed to business partnerships created for the convenience of the consumer, like banks and pharmacies opening branches inside supermarkets. But in England, they're not just creating business-to-business partnerships. God is involved, as Ed Boyle explains in this morning's comment from London.
Are you worried about crime in your neighborhood? Have you got a problem with rising damp in your house? Maybe your sex life is a little lackluster. Well, never fear, because the Church of England is now ready to help. Yes, you heard me correctly. The dusty old Church of England, a religious institution famous for sending its dwindling congregations to sleep, is at last trying to get to grips with real people in the real world via real estate. Pop into your local real estate office in our northern city of Manchester right now, and you'll find they've gone into partnership with the Dog Collar Brigade. So for a few dollars more, the house of your dreams can be given a special religious service to guarantee you move into a heavenly home. These clerics don't just exorcise ghosts, they give you the works in every room. It's a sort of Christian feng shui designed to counter the explosion of interest in alternative New Age spiritualism. So, the visiting vicars are big into laying on of hands. They lay them on the beds, praying for a healthy sex life. They lay them on the lavatory, thanking the Lord for sanitation. They'll open your wardrobe and lay them on your shirts too. And in the kitchen, you'll get them touching up the toaster and fingering the fridge. O Lord, to all who shall work in this room, that in serving others they may serve and share in your perfect service, and that in the noise and clutter of this kitchen they may possess you in tranquility. Then it's off to the garage and the family automobile. Almighty and everlasting God, be to this household a guide in all their journeys and a shield from every danger. Any sign of structural problems in the house, and they're quickly on their knees. Outside, they'll bless the whole place. They've got prayers to protect you from dry rot, wet rot, droughts, floods, pestilence, vandals, vagrants, and probably encyclopedia salesmen too. This couldn't happen in America, of course. Your Constitution guarantees the separation of church and estate. Get it? This is Ed Boyle for CBS News in London.
And we have a sad note to end this morning's London comment. Since Monday was a holiday in England, the commentary was taped in advance. The cameraman who shot it was Paul Douglas, one of the 2 CBS staffers killed Monday in Iraq. Our colleagues at our London bureau, where he was based, say above all they will miss Paul because he was their friend.
Oscar winner Gwyneth Paltrow and Leah Remini. Next, Ellen.
Now on CBS News, up to the minute.
The military convoy in which she was embedded was attacked.
The war in Iraq hits home. 2 members of the CBS News family are killed, and correspondent Kimberly Dozier is badly wounded in Baghdad. And from coast to coast, Americans mark Memorial Day with parades, barbecues, and prayers for America's fallen heroes. Good morning. This is CBS News Up to the Minute. I'm Meg Oliver. Veteran CBS foreign correspondent Kimberly Dozier remains in critical condition this morning, the result of an insurgent bomb attack in Baghdad that killed 2 members of her crew. Kimberly has already had 2 surgeries in the war zone, and she's been flown to a U.S. military hospital in Germany, where she'll undergo further treatment and be reunited with her family. Cameraman Paul Douglas and soundman James Brolin were killed by the blast. Our prayers go out to their families. CBS's David Martin has details.
Firefighters extinguished the flames of a demolished Humvee, but the deadly damage has already been done. 4 people killed by a car bomb. CBS News cameraman Paul Douglas, soundman James Brolin, a still unidentified American soldier, and an Iraqi translator. 3 more severely wounded, including correspondent Kimberly Dozier.
We remind her, stay out of harm's way, but we know that she won't. She'll go after the story wherever it is and whatever risk she has to expose herself to. And we dreaded the call that we got this morning.
It happened in a neighborhood of Baghdad near the city center, which had been the scene of 2 other deadly explosions just the day before. Dozier and her camera crew set out with soldiers from the 4th Infantry Division to do a story showing that Memorial Day was just like any other day in the war. They were riding in an armored Humvee. They were wearing protective gear.
They were not more than about 20 minutes from the hotel when this happened. They had barely had time to say hello to the unit that they were with when they were filming. They took every precaution that they possibly could, as we all do when we go out there. But there's a moment when these things happen when it really doesn't make any difference.
Shortly after they set out, the soldiers and the CBS News crew got out of their Humvees to inspect an Iraqi checkpoint. That's when the car bomb went off. Douglas and Brolin died there in the street. Dozier was medevaced to the emergency room in the green zone just a mile away.
She was hit pretty badly to her lower body, her legs, and I believe she was received a shrapnel wound to her head.
All 3, Douglas, Brolin, and Dozier, had years of experience reporting in war zones. That 3 such combat-savvy journalists could fall victim to a car bomb demonstrates why so-called improvised explosive devices have killed and maimed so many. The explosion that hit the CBS News team was not the only or even the deadliest blast to go off in Iraq on this Memorial Day. It was one of 8 that killed at least 33 people most of them Iraqis.
Doctors successfully removed the shrapnel from her head, and it did not penetrate her brain, so that does not appear to be life-threatening. The serious injuries are to her lower body. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
There is no more dangerous job in journalism than covering a war, but Iraq has been especially deadly for reporters. 71 journalists have been killed in the Iraq War. In comparison, just 69 journalists died in all of World War II. After President Bush launched the war in Iraq, the Pentagon instituted a new policy banning any coverage of the flag-draped coffins of America's fallen heroes returning from the war zone. But those killed in Iraq were remembered this Memorial Day on a California beach. 2,758 crosses, one for each American killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. There were flag-draped coffins for those who died this week. CBS's Bob Orr has more.
At Arlington National Cemetery, President Bush laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns and used the Memorial Day ceremony to reaffirm his Iraq policy.
Our nation mourns the loss of our men and women in uniform. We will honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives, by defeating the terrorists, by advancing the cause of liberty, and by laying the foundation of peace for a generation of young Americans.
Veterans and their families cheered the president's remarks, but the country is increasingly divided over the war. Recent polls show that more than half of Americans questioned believe it was a mistake for the U.S. to invade Iraq, and less than a third approve of the president's handling of the war. Still, this day was not about politics. From a flyover by World War II fighters in Chicago, to Houston, where families visited graves in the rain, to Atlanta, where baseball paused and heads were bowed. In a time of war, an uneasy nation honored its dead. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Another earthquake, this one measuring 5.6 on the Richter scale, rocked Indonesia this morning. The quake struck more than 2,000 miles east of Java Island, where the death toll from Saturday's quake has topped 5,000. And there are fears that a local volcano is about to blow. CBS's Barry Peterson reports.
Finally, the flow of help is starting. A nearby airport reopened and supplies are getting in. It's just a trickle, but in this place, every little bit extra will mean lives saved. And aid is finally getting to people desperate for food and clean water. I'm getting food for my whole village, says this man. This is the first help we've received. There is still time for miracles, for the trapped to be found alive and saved, but time is running out, and so is hope. Stunned and shocked, drenched by torrential rains, somehow the survivors hang on. Many are living in temporary shelters, sometimes nothing more than sheets of plastic because their homes were destroyed or badly damaged. The biggest concern is for the thousands of injured. Hospitals quickly exhausted medicine and blood for transfusions. Only the lucky few even got a bed. And, says the country's president who toured the area, foreign aid will soon arrive, including $2.5 million from the United States.
In my conversation with other world leaders, they are committed to helping Indonesia in this time of difficulty.
Sadly, Indonesia is no stranger to this kind of tragedy. A year and a half ago, an earthquake triggered the Asian tsunami that left more than 160,000 dead or missing just in Indonesia. Only a few months later, a massive quake killed thousands more in a different area. And one of Indonesia's 76 volcanoes, this one near the area of Saturday's earthquake, is simmering again. But experts say the recent series of events is not unusual. Indonesia's history is full of cataclysm caused by volcanoes and earthquakes. The only thing different is that nowadays there are so many more people living in this country. That means when catastrophe hits, there are so many more lives lost. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Beijing.
No one could tell me to my face I was alone. Drugs and alcohol, that's all there was. I found myself in a treatment center getting help for my alcohol and drug addiction. It wasn't easy. I drew myself a new world to live in, free of alcohol and drugs, and I started to come back to life. And then there were other people. Recovery. I need all my colors to paint it.
menopause is a natural part of a woman's voyage through life. But new destinations can be confusing. Use the North American Menopause Society's website as your navigator. We provide accurate information you can trust and understand easily through menopause and the years beyond. These can be among the best years of your life.
Fruit. What a tasty treat. Fruits packed with potassium and other nutrients can help keep your heart pumping strong during the game. And they give you energy back so you can take on the next activity. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
You don't have to be the world's fastest man to beat a speeding bullet. We can save our endangered animals. When we all come together, we can do anything.
It's 10 past the hour. The Baghdad bomb that killed 2 members of a CBS News camera crew and critically injured correspondent Kimberly Dozier was neither the only nor the deadliest such attack Monday, as if the world needed more reminders that war zones are dangerous places. Veteran CBS News correspondent Alan Pizzi has spent many months covering the wars in Baghdad and elsewhere. He joins us by telephone from Rome. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
First, our condolences. I know Paul Douglas, James Brolin, and Kimberly Dozier were not just your colleagues, but dear friends of yours as well. What did their deaths and injuries mean to you this morning?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, they were very, very close and good friends. I'd been with Paul particularly in some very, very bad places. He was one of those guys that you wanted to have with you in a bad place because he was steady, courageous, good sense of humor, which is the same can be said for James. He's one of those guys who could always make you laugh. And Kimberly, it's politically incorrect to say this, but Kimberly's a ballsy lady. She really is. She did what she liked to do, and she did it well. When your friends die like this, it brings it home to you that what we do is actually pretty stupid. It's irrational to do that, to put yourself in harm's way. On the other hand, there is a rationality to it. We do it because we think it's the right thing to do, because we think you should tell those stories, the stories of the people that we don't know, who were killed and maimed, who suffer. It's right that their stories should be told. This just brings it home that it's a dangerous thing to do. People who go into conflict zones, most of us, there are a few idiots who do it for the thrill, but most of us do it because we think it's right. We think we can assess the risks. They thought they could assess the risk, and they just took one step too far. I think for people like us, luck is a bit like a blind trust. You don't know how much is in it. You can't make any deposits. You can only make withdrawals.
Right.
When it's empty.
Alan, this was considered a routine story they were covering, but it seems nothing is routine in Iraq with the number of IEDs hiding around every corner. Has it become too dangerous for journalists in Iraq?
It's been too dangerous for journalists in Iraq for a long time. When you say IEDs around every corner, you're absolutely right. They literally are. Most war zones, you can figure out this street's probably safe, that street's got snipers, this is where the bad guys live, that sort of thing. In Iraq, every parked car, every moving car, every pile of garbage, every dead animal on the side of the road, every discarded piece of litter is potentially lethal for you. If it's not, somebody's not going to blow you up. There are people all around who would desperately like to get a hold of people like us and put us on a video having our head chopped off. So it's probably the most dangerous place you could possibly work at the moment as a journalist.
CBS News correspondent Alan Pizzi from Rome, thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Since the start of the war in Iraq, 71 journalists, mostly Iraqis, have been killed as a direct result of their job in the war zone. That number comes from the Committee to Protect Journalists, a New York-based independent organization dedicated to promoting a free press worldwide and protecting journalists wherever they work. Joel Campagna is the group's senior program coordinator for North Africa and the Middle East. He joins us from CBS station WBZ TV in Boston. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning.
Does getting the story always outweigh the risks of working in a war zone?
No. In fact, there's no story that's worth dying for, in Iraq in particular, where one of the most dangerous conflicts for the media in recent history, as you mentioned in the introduction, 71 journalists and another 26 media support staffers, that means drivers, interpreters, security personnel, have all been killed since March of 2003.